Small little craft room update. Glass. My tables are old hollow wood doors, so they're nice and big. And then I just realized, after many fucking, about 10 years, I have these sliding glass door panels from a sliding glass door that I had. So now I have one here, and I also painted the table. Look at the cleanness, kind of. And I also put one under the glass table over there. So now when I do like paint or anything messy, I can literally just wipe it off and I don't have to worry about it actually like getting really messy and staining. So yeah. And as for what I'm going to do tonight, probably lose my mind. I should be working tomorrow, but alas, my brain is telling me just to throw myself off a roof. But I can't do that. Alrighty. So yeah, I'll work on a few things tonight just to distract myself from the reality of reality, because, I haven't woken up willingly I haven't been woken up by alarm clock at 6 o'clock for years. So I'm not looking forward to it. But that is life. It's just going to be 4 hours. I'm going to be okay. Oh yeah, welcome to the live stream. If you're new to my channel, this is one of the world's most boring live streams where I sit here and work on some art stuff and kind of listen to things online, usually audiobooks that I find online for free, and usually on YouTube that people are doing. And yeah, that's what I'm doing tonight. You're welcome to hang around or check back in every half hour, 30 minutes to see how I'm doing or what I'm working on or how far we are. And yeah, I hope you guys are having a good, productive evening. Yes. My stress level through the fucking roof. It shouldn't be, but it is. I can't help it. Where's the edge of the table? Do I actually point this down? A little bit better. There we go. And I'm going to listen to a couple episodes of The Nature of Predators by Space Paladin 15. And we're just going to not get to the part where my favorite character dies. Because, that would just bum me out.
When first contacted, was hunched over a microscope. She seemed to be analysing some cell samples with a Vendel scientist, where it is related.
Welcome.
How Sarah sensed us with her lack of peripheral vision was beyond me.
Here for the behavioural exam?
Yeah, I think. My roommate grumbled.
Excellent. Just sign the consent form and then speak to Hilda here.
Sarah gestured toward the Vendel hovering beside her.
Don't worry, he'll be quick.
Marcel hesitated before scrawling his name on the dotted line. I noted how thin and fairish fingers looked for a predator. They were like spindly twigs. Whether my imagination was running amok or his hand quivered as he set the pen down. The humans looked terrifying to us, but I couldn't picture them going toe-to-toe with the Arxer. Before the ink dried on his signature, Ilja was strapping Marcel to a chair. The restraints seemed excessive for a consensual test. Electrodes were fastened to his skull, and his shirt was removed to tape a series of wires to his chest. Clips placed on his fingers fed additional data to a vitals monitor. I noticed the human growing more agitated the more equipment he was hooked up to. The rise and fall of his chest improved dramatically.
Don't leave, Sonic. Please.
He pleaded.
This is making me nervous as hell.
A sympathetic ache filled my chest cavity. It was strange to think that the predator was afraid of us. I hated seeing a friend in distress. What were our scientists testing exactly? These were pessimist just meant trust in these creatures, and I was worried about what would be done to achieve that. It looked as though they were planning to elicit a violent reaction from Marcel. Human subjects deserve proper treatment, not to be goaded into retaliation. Why do I feel so protective of him? I mused. I haven't known him that long.
This one's a little bit too thick.
It won't hurt you, I promise. The human furrowed his brow.
But you'll stay.
Of course. I'll be here. Marcel relaxed and the twinge in my chest deepened. The sentiments I felt in this moment suggested that despite the inherent risk, it was possible to grow attached to a predator. Whether humanity was sincere in its friendship, or if that was a one-sided delusion, remained to be seen.
Trying to get this laid flat enough so it doesn't touch the glass. I made the mistake of not taking into consideration the thickness.
Sonic, that little space core. Dead. Standardized human time, August 21st, 21:36. The patrol
That's not
ship
a lot to work with.
Federation border is now fuel into the endless night. The brooding Marcel sat at the helm under my supervision. Human pilots had no real-world experience flying ships. Their only insight into interplanetary battles were clumsy simulations back home. Perhaps it was unfair to hurl them into the war out of desperation, as unprepared as they were. I couldn't stop thinking about the results of the experiments and how revolutionary the findings would be when broadcast. Marcel bolted from the lab in a sweat-soaked stupor, and I made a judgment call to give him some time to regain his senses. In his absence, Ilja shared a cumulative AI analysis of all human subjects. A larger sample size was needed to validate the findings, but it was enough to put my mind at ease. We had proof that humans felt empathy. The predators were recorded doing things they claimed to enjoy as a baseline of pleasure. Eating sugary snacks, listening to their favourite song, playing games, and so on. A variety of other metrics were assessed for comparison, including boredom and anger. Then, there were short videos of the AXA torturing our children. Interestingly enough, the regions of their brain that were activated were most similar to the baseline for physical pain, which we determined through fingerpricking. Some human participants were so disturbed by the videos that they had to leave the room. That even manifested itself in physical symptoms, such as elevated heartbeat and vomiting. Much to my relief, the restraints proved an unnecessary precaution. Venlil's anabiologists were worried that violent footage might trigger predatory instincts, and the humans could experience a lapse in control. They wanted to avoid having to put a tenant subject down if they lashed out. It was best for everyone's safety. My gaze flickered over to Marcel, curiosity brimming in
I
my
might have
chest.
to redo this one
He was
completely.
lost in thought as well.
I don't think I can get it thin enough to go under the glass.
I was worried he was going to rip his own hair out with how he was tugging at the coarse open strands. Perhaps I should leave it alone, but I was dying to know his thoughts. If I may ask, what frightened you about our scientists? I blurted out. Did you really think they would hurt you? We don't have the same disposition as you.
You're going to laugh, but most of our old myths about aliens,
Yes?
well, they involve us getting abducted and experimented on. Hey, for all I knew, you were testing how humans react to torture.
You think we're that barbaric? Our scientists just won't help you fit in. They need conclusive evidence of your empathetic capacity. Else, we'll never silence the doubters.
I don't see why we need to prove yet again that we're not the AXA. Humans haven't done anything to you.
You're a contradiction of hundreds of years of scientific thought, Mars. Not to mention, certain groups in the Federation more like you, much more than us. They'll demand proof, and I'm not sure even the finest scientific rigor will withstand their scrutiny. It's not fair, I know. The human was silent, directing an intense glare at the scanner feed. The subspace readings were blank, with no indicators of activity beside our road. If there was anything to be gleaned, it wasn't on an empty screen. Maybe the experiments had jarred something in his personality after all, because I never remember his being so sullen online. If we needed to abandon the patrol and return to base, I'd like to know sooner rather than later, before he endangered himself, or others. Are you alright? I patted the human on the shoulder and felt him stiffen beneath my paw. I know that footage disturbed you, and I'm sorry. Marcel sighed.
No, I'm sorry. I'm furious, but not with you. I want to wring my hands around an AXA's neck.
I don't see how that would improve anything.
At least I'd be doing something.
You're here. You're protecting us.
Yes. Someone has to put a stop to their reign of terror. There's been no issue retreating people back on Earth. The way the kids get off on tormenting children, it sickens us. Why are they like that?
I wanted to ask you that, Max. We believe that predators evolve through warfare, killing and cruelty. Isn't it a survival advantage to you?
Well, killing, yes. Killing the competition of the dangerous things that lurk in the night. I suppose that's how we became predators. We aren't natural ones, you know. We were once prey-animals, same as you, using our cooperation to survive.
What? I didn't know that we looked like that.
I won't pretend they're cute and goody like you. Some people have walked ghastly paths throughout our history. There's plenty of blood on our hands, but in modern times we have rules for war called the Geneva Conventions. The Archer's methods are dishonorable and pathetic.
Before I could inquire as to the nature of these Geneva Conventions, shrill alarms blared from the ship's computer. 9 indicators popped up on the scanner feed, suggesting inbound AXA bombers. The flurry of activity when the humans arrived must have piqued their interest. The reptilians love to target weak links, and an isolated station such as our logic was just that. There were countermeasures developed over the centuries, but I didn't know if they'd be sufficient today. Our onboard AI could map the enemy's trajectory, then time the warp to shut the pulse with that information. Once we knocked the Greys out of hyperspace, I would direct the force to scamper off until reinforcements arrived. Without a confrontation, it could make the difference between catastrophic loss of life and a successful defense. I switched on the comms link. Prime outpost, we're reading 9 Archer bombers en route. Figure they have US their target.
Fuck. We have to stop them at all costs.
The exhaustion was evident in the male Venlow's voice that answered. I couldn't imagine how much stress the officers were under monitoring the UN arrivals.
The first large transport of humans and a couple hundred wind up dead. They'll never forgive us. They'll never send anyone again.
Sir, my human partner can hear you, I said.
Oh, right. This is General Camp from Vendel Command. We copy you. I must the humans to position their so-called fighters in an intercept course while we evacuate personnel here. Stall for time if you can.
I drew a shaky back. Yes, sir. We'll do our best. Nausea swelled in my throat as I synced the ship computer with the disruptor beacons lining the border. My mind strayed to its usual dark corner, replaying my brother's funeral. The shock was still as fresh as it was months ago when I first learned that his transport ship has gone down. There wasn't a trace left to remember him by, no body to recover. Would I be the next to fall by the Archer's claws? Every instinct told me to flee, to put as much distance between us and those monsters as possible. However, the pulses needed to be timed down to the nanosecond, which meant our proximity was a necessity. My brain felt overstimulated, as if my senses were set aflame. Being around a human for hours pushed me to my limit. It's hard to think with my nerves all frazzled. I pondered with a tinge of guilt. How selfish I am. I haven't even considered how Mars is feeling. I hoped the wordless Marcel was okay with the peril we were in. He had loved ones back on Earth, including a fiancée whom he spoke of with fondness. He didn't want to die here. There was no data on how the primates threatening situations, how they cope with stress. But with the Greys closing in on our position...
Shit, why are you crumbling? Stop crumbling on me!
We thought that'd be time for our allies to settle in before hurling them into the fire. Hopefully humans had solid self-preservation instincts and could use their cleverness to fill in the blanks. Those bombers were about to become quite real. There were no visible signs of distortion as our pulse detonated. The AI's calculation was silent and flawless. I'd liken FDL disruption to pulling a rug up beneath someone's feet. The warp bubble burst in an instant, plunging the Archer vessels into real space. No doubt it was disorienting for those Hellspawn on board. Watching their angular ship spin forth from nothingness was a magical sight if the stakes weren't so dire. The bombers slowed to regain their bearings and to scope out their surroundings. They wished to exact revenge on the pre-animal who dared to fight back. It was evident Archer architects spared no thought for beauty. Plasma Relvin jutted out from both flanks.
Nope, you're not. Why are you not sticking? Come on!
Turrets for kinetic weapons dotted the arbor in case of a close-range engagement. The temperature of the underbelly provided storage for antimatter missiles. I imagine the predators relished the terror their constructs instilled. Witnessing their fate felt like peering into the jaws of death. Hideous ship, sir, I gripped. There was no reply from Marcel. I would suspect he froze in fear if I hadn't seen his hands tied around the steering column. An uneasy feeling crept into my mind. Every creature handled stress differently, but his behavior was off by a long shot. Come on, Sonic. The Greys are the threat here, I spoke to myself. Not the human. Knock, knock. Anyone home? I tried to keep my voice playful, but I was desperate to snap the human out of his trance. You do see their ships, and realize we're alone. There is safety in numbers. It's time to head back to base. Marcel leaned forward, fangs protruding in a menacing snarl. I noted with abject horror how his eyes dilated and his canines glistened with saliva. If that was an expression of happiness, why was it appearing when our territory was under siege? Mars, we need to flee. Now. I shook the human on the shoulder, but he shrugged me off. Mars, ship man, they've definitely spotted us. Marcel, Flores, I beg you.
These motherfuckers.
Marcel roared, disregarding me entirely. The human did floor it, to charge in the direction of the Archer fleet. What happened? He went berserk. It was so big 6 minutes ago. I tried to scream the fleet to stop, but it came out as an incoherent yelp. The Pettit either didn't know how, or didn't bother to prime the targeting system. He jammed a closed finger on the firing trigger, spraying plasma rounds with impunity. The blaring aggression seemed to take the players by surprise. It marked a drastic shift from Evangel's typical flightiness. Their field-glancing blows struck the lead ship. One must have impacted the propulsion system since its drive beam flickered out. Marcel turned his stream of fire towards the crippled vessel's brethren. Some hits connected it round.
Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do it that way. Damn it.
We made a sweeping pass across the formation before banking heavily in the direction of the again. The computer warned me that we had been target locked by all 9 hostiles.
Run.
I wondered. Marcel cleared his throat.
Yep, good idea.
The human pointed the ship in the direction of the Federation border. Why wasn't he trying to return to the outpost? The lost remnants of my logical brain suggested that he was trying to lure the Archer away. I winced as my harness shifted into my neck.
It's not enough space to have something hanging down.
Only 2 Oxer ships stayed chased, while the rest returned to their intended course. They couldn't resist sending someone to hunt a straggler down. I knew the enemy bombers would slowly close the gap with relentless abandon. The optimal way to lose our pursuers was to slip into subspace, but unfortunately, warp required several minutes of stationary preparation. The human signed our death warrant with his stupidity. Our puny ship gunned away from safety with a pair of apex predators in hot pursuit.
Memory transcription subject, Captain Soflin, Federation Fleet Command. Date, Standard Honest Human Time, August 21st, 2136. Making an enemy of the starship captain was ill-advised, even in these trying times. My astonishment at being evicted from Vendel territory by force still hadn't faded. There was no reason for flagrant disrespect, especially when we were responding to their cry for help. When Governor Talbot started waving missiles around, it felt personal. It was fair to say I harbored a permanent grudge against them. Talbot's behavior could be chalked up as war-induced psychosis, if not for the mayhem that followed. Without a word as to why, the Venlil withdrew from the Federation's military. Their borders were sealed, cutting off crucial supplies and outposts. Any ship seeking entry returned back at gunpoint. Alien diplomats and visitors were barred from leaving Venlil space, or even contacting their homeworlds. It was like something from a dystopian novel. Division in our ranks was the last thing we needed, with how the Archer had been pressing lately. A diplomatic resolution was the desired outcome to any crisis, if at all possible. But when it took begging for the Venlil to provide proof of life, it didn't seem there was room for negotiation. Tab hadn't offered any time frame, terms or conditions for the release. This was no temporary standoff either. It had been over a month, and none of their actions were rescinded. The Federation were a lot of dithering idiots, afraid of ruffling feathers, but even their patience had limits. Major players, including my own Gojedi Union, were incensed at our people's hostage status. Judging by the protests across the galaxy, I wasn't the only one who felt compelled to take matters into my own claws. Whatever the Venlo Republic was hiding, I was determined to get to the bottom of it.
Sodlin.
Piri, the Gajit Prime Minister, sighed in irritation. She must have seen my eyes gloss over.
You still with me? Or are you plotting revenge in that thick head of yours?
I blinked several times. Sorry, ma'am.
As I was saying, I'm disappointed in you. You went off snooping on the Venlil without permission, and used Federation forces to do so. What do you have to say for yourself?
Piri asked. I haven't crossed their border. I pointed a claw at the viewport towards the invisible threshold. If we decide to break our people up by force, we need the facts. The Federation has a right to know what the Venlil are up to.
What makes you think they're up to anything?
Talbot isn't stupid enough to commit diplomatic suicide, not without cause. I mean, the resolution condemning their actions passed by unanimous vote. She's lucky we haven't done more than place their membership on probation. Piri tilted her head,
What do you
weighing the
think?
circumstances for herself. Shutting down all communication overnight.
I wanted to have this hanging down, but there's just not enough room between the glass.
I
Alright.
couldn't fathom what quelled the populace's rebellion.
Okay, what's next on the to-do list?
An unknown transgression. Even if Venlo's closest allies were left baffled and in the dark. Talk of warfare
You
was
could do.
growing, as much as the Federation
You back
was thought
together.
to be so.
And your table leg
Why would
sucks.
Talbot invite such extreme fallout? What could make every partner worth it?
I don't disagree. The Venlil would need a serious incentive to draw our ire.
The politician said.
There we go.
They've always been loyal to the Federation until now. What's your
I come across about 3 of these blue boys every year. Thank you for the thumbs up.
As though they're trying
You guys are always seen and appreciated in my heart.
What was the Archer breathing down their necks every hour of every day.
Pretty focused to the gaze on me, a disapproving glint in her eyes.
I should reprimand you, Sovlin. I notice myself. What have you learned through your praying?
The Venlu are still letting someone into their territory. I'm not sure if it's a Federation member. A group of transports dropped at the Finch outpost today. They weren't chased away like the rest of us.
Are you sure they were allowed to stay?
I'm positive. They got an escort from the ceremonial fleet. Tarva's personal parade. I just got close enough to make out their subspace origin, not without crossing.
So that's why you called me now. You want my blessing in case you get caught. I hear about it the hard way.
That's one way of putting it, Mark. May I poke around?
Very well. I want to report as soon as you learn anything. And Sovlin, don't make me regret this.
The video feed cut out. I eyed the space ahead of us with giddiness and gave my first officer a tail thump that meant to proceed. The posting was filled by Russell, a veteran of the Koshin Commonwealth. There had been no objections to my plan from him. His allegiance was to the Federation first, and unveiling the truth about the Venlo's misdeed was in their collective interest. Anyone with eyes could see that their behaviour was off. The crew leapt into action and
There we go.
declared a new course for the Finches at Venlo's base.
Pardon my butt.
We could hide behind the guise that we were patrolling and strayed into their territory by mistake. All I needed was to get in range for our signal interceptors. Local
Alrighty.
broadcasts offer some clues if subspace readings.
Then Bat Boy's going in.
Our warship pivoted, angling us toward the forbidden region. I settled down in the captain's chair and monitored.
Yeah, there you are.
We would drift over the border
I'll
gradually.
put this side down.
If we were able to pull this mission off, I would be acclaimed for my initiative. Satisfaction swelled
Ta-da.
my chest at the thought of adding to my repute.
It's not perfect, but that's okay. It'll make somebody happy, and that's all that matters.
Venlo patrol ship heading straight for us. I slammed my paw down in frustration. We're still on our own damn side of the border. They can't object to us patrolling our own damn space. According to the computer, the patrol vessel was on an intercept
Where
course.
is the backs for these?
Sensor data suggested their speed was at max velocity, well above safety recommendations. They were going to burn out their own engines pushing them to that degree. My call with Prime Minister was encrypted, so I didn't see how they could have listened in. Radio silence from that little boat, Russell noted. What do you want to do?
What do I unplug?
My spines bristled.
What did I
Wanted
unplug?
to change course at once and have weapons on
I
standby.
don't. What did I unplug?
Shitty stoppers. With the viewport on highest magnification, I could make out a tiny dot racing toward our position. Its course was erratic, as though the stabilizers were close to giving out. Several hails had gone unanswered. The Venlo ship failed to
Oh, the hair dryer.
The patrol vessel paid.
I don't need that right now.
Breezing into our territory without any deceleration. Silence fell over the bridge. The tension was palpable. I knew my crew still felt some sense of attachment to the Venlo after years of steadfast alliance.
Alrighty.
It was for their sake that I wasn't striking this craft down on the spot. Fire a warning shot and nail them one final time, they were. This not knowing them, and I want them finished. 3 passenger the lock just above the patrol ship's flight path. Its pace slowed as though the pilot was second-guessing their decisions. The hesitation was brief, though. It returned to its stubborn sprint moments later. Had the Venlo fallen victim to some neurological plague? That would explain everything. I gritted my teeth. Kill them. They need to be taught a lesson.
Wait, sir. We're detecting 2 more vessels on their tail. Arxer bombers.
My first officer said. At last, a decent explanation for why the Venlo refused to turn back. If those reptile bastards were after them...
Alright, I think we're gonna work on the cats next.
Why they were unresponsive to our hails was
Hey everyone!
especially with the delicate situation between our species. The patrol
It
ship's
looks
engines
blurry to me. Am I
were
blurry?
to a resting position. The vessel swiveled around to face the Arxer bombers. It looked like an insect compared to a warship, yet its size did not prove a deterrent. As soon as the enemy pursuers became visible, it began to plasma around in their direction. The caliber was insufficient to trade blows with the Greys, but the helmsman didn't seem to care. The coughing engine was putting back to life, to give them a push in the enemy's direction. Yeah, neurological plague. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. The Republic craft dipped down to avoid returning, pressed on with its advance. In spite of myself, I was impressed with the pilot's ability to overpower their instincts. Whatever my personal feelings toward the Venlo, this bravery was unmistakable, to be honest. Very unlike them. Their accuracy was lacking, however. The artist ships absorbed any hits.
Get her done?
Sir, should we
Oh
intervene?
dear, what's that on her neck?
How many times have we saved them already? I grumbled. And for what? The cell winded faster.
You wouldn't let the axe of killing some people over a grudge with Tarver?
I suppose not. Advance on the Arch bullet and line them up with the railguns. I could sense the pure relief from their eagerness to carry out the new orders. Perhaps they had been worried that my previous attempt to let the Greys eat the dead helped us here. It would take the order to
A bit hotter than that. I'm gonna go grab some pictures from upstairs to work on. Be right back.
There was a reason the Federation invested in such small gargantuan ships. Powering effective weapons required a large backbone. A radiant beam sailing through the inky sky connecting with an enemy vessel.
Alright, I'm just gonna be right back. I like that part, so I'm just gonna pause it. Don't be mad at me. Found something. Well, the next time I gotta get done, whether I get done today or tomorrow. Okay, so these are pictures. They're plaster. My dumb ass didn't realize that. So when I tried to scrub off the shitty varnish, I scrubbed too hard and started erasing shit. So yeah, that's why it's looks like that. But yeah, these I can bake in the oven. So I'm just gonna use the other clay and add some things. As soon as that gets hot enough to finish this, and you get to dry. Anyway, well, I hope you guys are having a survivable evening. Oh.
Pleasure rolled down my spine as our plasma launched through the engine. There was one Archibald that finished in a fiery flash. Our railgun would take several seconds to recharge, so I hoped the Venwell ship could hang on a little longer. The pilot's crazed maneuvers could only do so much for evasion. The final enemy was spewing quite a plasma torrent at them, unrelenting in their hunt. One round clipped the patrol ship on the bow. It lurched forward and sat dazed with the arcs of sight. My crew's efforts to rouse the railgun gained a new sense of urgency. The Reptilians rounded on our forward allies, accelerating to deliver the finishing blow. The Venwell were worded further by a clean hit to the propulsion system. The drive point flickered out, and the patrol ship lay.
Where'd I put it?
Without mobility, the vessel was floating too. The pilots fired had ceased too. There was no telling if they had lost weapons or if it meant the worst.
I just had the clay. I was just squishing it between my fingers.
There wasn't a second to spare.
It's right around here.
The crew scrambled to unleash our hellfire.
There it is. Found it.
Vigilance penetrated the night sky, and I prayed that it would arrive in time. While the Venwell were traitors, I preferred them to the effronter Sapiens known as the Archer. Our railgun strike pierced the Archer's shell, splicing it clean in half. With its dying breath, the predators discharged a barrage of plasma, a parting gift for their quarry. There was nothing we could do to intervene. All eyes turned to the unfolding scene with collective horror. The Venwell craft was idle, dead in the waters. The fireballs bore down on the cruiser, one after the other, closing the distance in a blur. Somehow, our sensor didn't record a direct impact. The blistering shot shaved its hull, straying wide by a hair's breadth. I imagine the occupants could all but smell the smoke. Talk about a near miss, and the railgun must have dropped the Arctic just enough. Cheers echoed through the bridge, though the celebration was premature to me. The Venwell ship sustained serious damage and wasn't showing any signs of activity. Venwell ship, do you copy? I asked over the comms frequency. We can send medical assistance if needed. There was silence. My opportunism flickered back to life as I remembered the purpose of our foray. Nobody had communicated with anyone inside the public ports for weeks. This was the perfect opportunity to force the Venwell to talk, to discover the truth behind their reclusiveness. We could start by asking some questions about the mysterious visitors. If you can hear me, Venwell ship, you are now in the custody of the Galactic Federation. Any attempt to flee will be met with extreme force, as will any efforts at resistance. I paused, making sure to emphasize my last words. Prepare to be boarded. Memory transcription subject, Captain Sovlin, Federation Fleet Command. Date, standardized human time,
August 21st, 2136. A contingent of Federation soldiers blasted into the patrol ship, key to unravel its secrets. I was relieved that the Vendel opted not to barricade the main hatch. With their recent obstinance, I figured they'd make our entry a drawn-out process. There were 5 others beside myself, a crowd for the tiny ship. It took a few moments for my eyes to adjust to the dim lighting. There didn't appear to be substantial damage to the ship's interior, but I didn't hear any vocalization from the occupants. It became a priority to locate the passengers and determine if they needed medical attention. I spotted a Van Lille slumped in the rear seat with blood dripping down his forehead. Judging by the wound's location, his head was tossed into the ship frame during the Archer strikes. It was possible he had been knocked out prior from fear or shock. Those injuries required extensive treatment if it was severe enough for him to remain unconscious. The sound of heavy breathing drew my attention, and my eyes darted toward the pilot's chair. The creature's form was mostly void of fur, if the bits of pinkish skin that peeked through its garments were an indicator. The sole hair clump was a mop of red fuzz on its head, which cut off near its neckline. With its back to us, I couldn't make out any more about its features. Was this the species that docked at the station earlier? It didn't look like any I thought I'd stumbled across in my travels, so that ruled out it being a Federation number. Something about it made my skin crawl. Maybe it was just the lack of hair that made it look freakish. Its skin looked soft, lacking any sort of natural armor or defenses. Its stature wasn't impressive either, only a touch taller than myself. What are you? I growled.
I'm Marcel, just a guy. Nice to meet you.
He offered.
Please, help Slanik. He's injured.
I sighed in irritation. Fine, but why the fuck weren't you answering our hails? We almost blasted you out of the sky.
I didn't know how to use the comm system. My buddy was unconscious, in shock, I think.
Marcel's voice was low and breathy. It seemed to be hyperventilating.
This is my first time flying one of these.
You'd never flown one of these ships before, and you fly like that.
Like what?
Never mind. Turn around and come with us.
I can't do that.
How dense could a person be? This was not a negotiation. These two were in no position to argue with us. My boarding notification was explicit enough in stating that they were our prisoners, not our guests. My attempts to be sensitive to not wave Gunther on the second we stepped in clearly hadn't paid dividends. Marcel, I wasn't asking, I hissed. If you expect us to help your friend, you'd better comply.
Let's just talk for a moment, okay?
The Picarian pilot raised his hands over his head slowly, but kept his head pointing toward the viewport.
Listen, I'm not your enemy. I don't want you to shoot me. I don't want to hurt you, or whatever it is you all say.
You think you could hurt us? You're surrounded and alone.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just not with the Arxa. We're on the same team, okay?
What is this nonsense? Your rambling is madness. Don't tell me you're going into shock too. Marcel drew a shaky breath and turned his head slowly toward us. The drumette nearest to him staggered backward, reaching for her sidearm. She tripped over the lifeless Sonic in her retreat and was charged in a panic. The round ended embedded in the ceiling, punching a hole in the already battered ship, firing plasma guns and demonstrating reckless trigger discipline in a contained spaceship. The damn thing was venting atmosphere as we spoke. The crewmate earned a scorching glare from me. I was appalled with her behaviour. What has gotten into you? I screeched. Holster your weapon at once. I'll have you disciplined for your...
Captain Sovlin,
Another crewmate interrupted in a squeaky whisper.
look, it's one of them.
My gaze flitted back over to Marcel. Shock stabbed at my heart. My insides twisted into knots. The pilot sported binocular vision, just like the Archer. A cruel intelligence glistened through his beady eyes, even as he tried to avert them. Every time he directed his gaze at someone, it felt like they were being tracked. His inky pupils were no more than dilated pools of hunger. The pieces fell together as I gaped at Marcel dumbfounded. A fellow hunter on a Republic ship could only mean one thing. The Van Lille homeworld was occupied by an army of predators, and in all likelihood, their species was its slave. These beasts must be the reason for that distress signal a few weeks ago. Perhaps I owed the Van Lille an apology since I had misjudged them so terribly. The tragedy they endured was unspeakable. The monsters probably threatened to kill their entire populace if they tried anything, which is why Talbot betrayed us. Her decision-making was still terrible, but something I could forgive. Chasing the Federation Armada off under duress was different to abandoning her friends. The resentment festering inside of me dissipated in an instant, replaced by burning hatred. We had never gotten our paws on one of the reptiles, so we'd have to settle for the next best thing. I would not let Marcel's species follow in the Arch's footsteps. I would make them pay for everything they had done, tenfold. Marcel's hands trembled and he closed his eyes.
Guys, I'm just here to fight the Axa. What they've done is despicable, and we would never...
Quiet. Get on the ground. My voice was cold and assertive as I raised my sidearm at him. Don't shoot him unless he pushes us. I want him alive. The predator obeyed, sprawling out prone on the floor. He was lying flat on his stomach, so his eyes were facing the ground. He linked his dexterous digits behind his head, as though to prove he wouldn't take a swipe at us. My soldiers gave me an expectant look, waiting for orders. Did they presume I had the answer to everything? There was nothing in the book about predators hiding in plain sight. But if I didn't take command, there was going to be a total collapse of control. The last thing I wanted was my Yeti fleeing and leaving this creature on the loose in our territory. Let me tell you a story.
Didn't stick to my fingers!
Protect Slanik until medical assistance arrived, I said, gesturing toward the unconscious Venlil. Get him out of here and somewhere safe. Be gentle with him when he wakes. Make sure he knows he's free, and that he never has to see this monster again. Marcel stiffened.
Free. Sonic is...
Another word and I'll kill you. Don't tempt me, freak. Summoning my innermost courage, I approached the predator with a pair of restraints. There was no other person I trusted not to freak out if he twitched or spoke. The creature didn't move, only sucking in erratic breaths. His submissive behavior was odd, but he could be baiting me with proximity. I needed to keep my wits about me and stay prepared for a surprise attack. I knelt down over Marcel's back, pinning him to the ground with my hind legs. One paw held the barrel of my pistol against his neck, while the other paw reached for his hands. The sensation of my fur brushing his skin made me flinch. I couldn't slap the manacles around his wrist fast enough. Behind us, two crewmates crouched by Stanley, shooting glances toward the predator as they did. It was apparent they wanted to get as far away from him as possible. We had to wait for the ship medic to arrive with a stretcher and drugs, though. If the Venlil had spinal damage, it was too risky to transport it without professional supervision. That said, the damn doctor was taking his sweet time arriving. I was the one stuck guarding a novel predator, absorbing the full brunt of the terror. The minutes standing by Marcel seemed to drag. It was agony. Even as he remained compliant and silent. Part of me wanted to put a bullet in his brain and be done with it.
You're pressing way too hard on the prisoner's abdomen.
A disapproving voice drifted from the ship's entrance, and a relieved sigh from me. Dr. Zahn strode in, scanning the scene.
What is going on here, Captain?
Don't ask. I need a sedative now, I replied.
For a new species, we have no idea which drugs are safe or how they could interact with its nervous system. I can't sign on to this.
I rolled Marcel onto his back, and Zahn's eyes widened. The doctor dropped his kit on the floor and stood frozen for several seconds. He took a pointed cuff from me to snap him out of his stupor. The medic drew a shuddering breath, trying to compose himself. It was quivering as he filled the syringe, and inched towards us like he was on cracked ice. I extended an arm as far as I could, and snatched the sedative from his outstretched paw. Zahn darted back to a safer distance, muttering several curses. He gave Sonic a brief examination, feeling the vertebrae of his spine. At the doctor's go-ahead, the soldiers moved the Venlil onto a stretcher. My eyes shifted back to the predator, whose gaze bore directly up into my skull. Turning him over for the doctor to see might not have been the best idea, since it meant his face was visible again. Well, Marcel wasn't going to sedate himself, was he? Fucking hell, here goes nothing, I growled. I found a large vein in the predator's neck and brought the syringe toward it. Marcel shrunk back into the floor, possibly mistaking the pointed blade for a weapon. It was doubtful his species had any concept of medicine. With a quick motion, I jabbed the needle into his pale skin. Marcel winced and those awful eyes flickered shut. I finally allowed myself to feel my emotions and doubled over panting. My gun slipped from my paws. It took everything to bite back a scream. I couldn't lose my composure in front of the crew.
Captain, listen, you've had a terrible shock and the most exposure of anyone.
Dr. Zahn said in a soft tone.
Let your first officer step in. You need to rest. You're risking cardiac arrest if you push yourself any further.
Let me call the shots. Over my dead body, I snorted. I will be the one to tell Fury and to move this thing to a holding cell. The doctor flicked his ears in disdain.
Yes, it's a terrible creature. I didn't think any humans were still alive.
Any what?
Humans. That's what it is.
We knew about these demons before.
Indeed. You know the predator race we discovered after the Arxa? The Federation glosses over it, but surely you've heard it mentioned.
The extinct ones.
Clearly not that extinct. We were certain humans killed themselves off, though. The number of explosions on their planet was astronomical. It was a fitting ending for a species that tormented each other and lived in constant battle.
What do you think they've done to the Venlil?
Humans are conquerors who derive pleasure from dominating others. That is what their explorers have always done on their homeworld. They are aggressive, brutal, and territorial. Every bit as savage as the Greys. You can fill in the blanks, Captain.
Dear stars. I should wonder how you know such detail, Doctor. Enough to recognize one.
I researched humans for my bioethics thesis.
Of course you did, I said in a derisive tone. I bet you argued it was worth saving them, because a doctor's off is saving all lives.
On the contrary, the Federation developed plans to raise their planet, Earth, which were scrapped after their presumed extinction. My paper argued that some animals are not worth saving, that not all life is equivalent. Killing humanity will have been justified for the greater good. It was our moral obligation to follow through, even.
I never thought I'd hear those words from you, Zan. Humans must be irredeemable. I glowered at Marcel's lifeless form. My mind was buzzing with thoughts of a fiery raid on this Earth. Well then, I suppose it's time to tell Pete we have unfinished business.
I wonder if I can find the glue in all this mess. I'd have to glue them down after. Should have did it before. Should have done a lot of things, but I didn't, did I? Alrighty. So, gonna bake these guys, and when they're baked, I can then paint them.
Governor Tarver of the Vendel Republic. Date, due in time. August 22nd, 2136. Word of the Arxa attack on our space station reached Vendel Prime via the media first. I suspect that the camera crew sent a document the humans' arrival were able to get a message about before the confrontation. Details were scarce, but the first link between predators and space made for flashy headlines. In all honesty, I was keen as how humans would fare against the Greys as anyone. I was clinging to some far-fetched hope that they'd swoop in and save the day. There was no telling whether the station was still standing. Research outposts didn't have meaningful defences, since our Thesis protection was assigned to colonies and planets. The humans needed to save their own hide against the Arxa. Maybe we should have hosted the UN delegation on Venlo Prime, but the idea was to assimilate them in increments. Having predators walking in the streets, dining in restaurants, and smiling at school children would have been much for the public. I felt guilty leaving our human friends in a vulnerable location. In trying to shield them, I might have gotten them killed. Terran technology was primitive, and while they excelled at dogfight in atmospheric conditions, I suspected their ships weren't attuned to space yet. They were in the process of building a new armada from scratch. The craft deployed to the station were there for emergencies, and were little more than prototypes. There was profound relief when Cal messaged me, stating that...
My God, I actually found it.
My military advisor promised a full briefing, assuring me that the station was still standing. I was relieved to hear that there were survivors, but also wondered how the human ships had performed.
Hi, Tarver.
A predator's voice pierced my ears. Noah's arrival at the governor's mansion was a welcome sight. I was happy to have a familiar face amidst the stress and confusion. The cheery astronaut was appointed Terran ambassador at my request, and had taken up permanent residence planetside. I never seemed tired of interviews and all those patients with our timid behaviour. Thank you for coming. I nodded to my friend, suppressing my reaction to his toothy grin. I've never met any human military personnel, which is Lord Maya has been trying to keep them away from me. He calls them snakes in the grass, whatever that means.
Meyer is a smart man.
Noah chuckled.
They're going to try to get you to hand over your ship blueprints and to take sides in our national disputes. By the way, I strongly advise you not doing either. Neutrality is a fine policy.
I hit my ears. What disputes? Don't you all get along now?
We never got along, Tarver. We just get along with the Arxa less.
Why can't you make peace? That old predator's instinct for aggression thing.
I guess.
You're smart. You must realise it's not advantageous to your species to fight.
We know that, but we are what we are. I'm sorry if it frightened you.
General Cam entered the reception hall, halting our conversation. The military advisor looked like he hadn't slept in days. 2 humans trailed after him, sporting uniforms with flashy colours. If memory served me right, the one in the light blue was from the US Space Force, while the red attire designated China's Strategic Support Force. It was tough to remember all the factions of such a disunited species. There were hundreds of governments on Earth, each with their own culture and leadership. One of the most embarrassing incidents was when I sent thanks to Austria for supplies rendered by Australia. though both nations seem to find the mix-up humorous. Ever since then, I've tried to stick to speaking with Secretary General Wire and his office. The Vendel wanted an alliance with the entire species, not to juggle rival tribes.
Glad to see you, Governor. General Jones and General Zhao
Cam paused, gesturing to the two respective humans.
have prepared a simulation of the battle for us. You'll find their strategies, most intriguing.
Intriguing. General Zhao shrugged.
A win is a win.
What did that mean? And our predators used some cheap tactics against the Axum. I ushered the entourage into a conference room, making sure to keep Noel between
Gotta keep an eye on the
myself
time. I gotta go to bed at 11 because I gotta get up at 6:30. No, wait, I gotta get up at 6. Holy shit.
Diplomats would always believe. My house expected them to be marred with battle scars or bearing their fans at everyone they passed. Come fiddle with the Hall projector, syncing the Terran devices with ours. A shivering recreation bent up over the central table, and I studied it with nervous anticipation. This would be our first insight into how human warfare truly worked.
There we go.
General Jones said.
I feel obligated to note those ships are American designs.
Zhao rolled his predator eyes, a display that looked most unnatural.
You had to slip that in, didn't you? They used our weapons modifications. The most important part of any system is the firepower. Wouldn't you agree, Tava?
Would you mind if we watched the simulation before I offer my opinion? I answered in a sheepish voice. I wouldn't want to speak in ignorance. Noah smirked, shooting me a knowing glance. The ambassador's warning proved at least half correct, and I thought I'd done a decent job deflecting the question. Motion activated on the projector, and the visual representation sprung to life. Computer data and
Okay,
analysis
so
augmented
those
the
guys need to go to bake.
6 active bombers battled down on the outpost, composed by a wall of human ships. The Terran fleet was comprised of tiny one-seater ships whose only asset appeared to be
You, you're
the
next.
humans outnumbered the reptiles by an order of 20 to 1, according to the computer. Sheer numbers didn't matter when their primitive weapons were ineffectual against the Greys. The UN had to have something else up their sleeves if the station survived, I thought. Our allies swarmed the Arxa with blinding mobility. Plasma and kinetics reigned on the Grey's position, and the enemy struggled to lock down the pesky targets. They began shooting in all directions, as that was the surefire way to connect with something. Terran indicators blinked out by the dozens, which earned a wince from me. Undeterred, the humans pressed on toward their deaths. The Arxa craft had sustained minor damage, but were mostly unscathed. There was no sign of any backup or reinforcements, no grand trick or ambush. I expected more complex tactics from an intelligent predator. The humans flew practically on top of the Arxa, making it impossible for them to use their railguns. The reptiles switched over to kinetic weapons and carved swords through the Terran ranks with precision. The bombers then broke off toward
What
the
color?
station, disregarding the puny fighters.
How
The
about
humans were not worthy of attention.
orange and red?
To me, these UN ships are a joke. This is the species that was supposed to save us, I mused. They sent their pilots to a slaughter. Blind aggression isn't enough. It was the second that the Arxa lost interest that the primates pounced. There were only 52 friendly vessels remaining, but they acted in harmony. The humans discharged heat-seeking missiles so close that they were caught up in the explosions themselves. At those ranges, the Greys had no chance to activate their interceptors. It seemed that the humans had finally drawn blood. 2 enemy indicators flickered out, but 4 weathered the storm. By comparison, 23 more UN ships had gone down in their own blasts. Losing every fighter wasn't going to prove a point. It was time to order a retreat before there were no forces left. Instead, the primates violated all laws of self-preservation. The Terrans formed a barricade in the Axis path, trying to intercept their fire. Their railguns chewed through the fighters with ease and whittled their numbers down to a dozen. The humans were backed into a corner. Unlike us, they would not flee. They saw that the station was about to take fire and rushed forward in a predatory frenzy. The last Terran ammunition was dispensed. They were drained dry with no options to fight on. Several captains made the spontaneous decision to hurl the last scraps of their fighters into Arxa ranks. What kind of species used their ships as missiles? How could they in full speed to sacrifice their own lives? In the wake of the human early battering, the reptiles proved unable to withstand multiple drive explosions. The handful of remaining fighters sucked defiantly, almost daring the Arxa ships to emerge from the smoke. The simulation froze as it reached the end of the data input.
We suffered heavy losses. If only our drone program was ready for deployment, that would be a game changer. At least we know now the Arxa can be taken down.
General Jones said.
There were no Vendel casualties. We destroyed the Greys before they reached the station.
General Zoe concluded. I glanced away in horror. Only 3 UN vessels remained from the original allotment. The humans sacrificed ships numbering in the 3 digits to stop the Arxa. That could hardly be considered a victory. How could predators develop vessels that were that much weaker than their counterparts? That loss ratio was unacceptable in a long-term war.
There is a small point of concern, Governor.
Jones paused, waiting for me to focus on her.
A Van Lille patrol ship went missing in Federation territory with a human on board. In the hours since, the Gojits have started to mobilize along the border.
We believe the ship may have been captured, which would mean the feds are now aware of us.
So I did.
The only positive is that unless the hostages told them, they don't know we're at it. That buys us some time to figure out our next action.
My blood ran cold as ice. The Federation possessed the exact location of Earth. While the humans were advised that they might be killed on sight, I hadn't disclosed the specifics of our history. There was no telling how a predatory species might retaliate to a plot for their extinction. That said, I couldn't bear to see them blindsided by a preemptive strike. The time had come where I had to divulge the full extent of the Federation's hatred.
Well, maybe we should speak to them.
Noah chimed in.
I'm not sure we shouldn't have from the start. The Arks are at a sample size of 1. The Unions have no experience with humans or any other predators. If Tablet vouches for us, they might come around.
I stood up from my chair. I doubt that. They'll hate you. The Terran ambassador frowned.
If you can accept us, why can't they? How do you know that the Federation will try to kill us just because we're predators?
I just do. Noah crossed his arms.
You're going to have to do better than that.
I need a word with the ambassador alone.
No. I think we should all hear this.
General Zhou's posture was stiff as a board, as though he'd sensed something off.
Whatever pertains to our safety concerns everyone in this room.
Well, it's because... Noah tilted his head inquisitively. Worry sparkled in his brown eyes as he noticed me shining away from him. I wondered if even he could forgive me for such a grave omission, for the betrayal of his trust. Because they tried to kill the last predators they found. I slumped my shoulders in defeat, avoiding his gaze. I didn't want to tell you,
You're saying they killed another predator species before?
the ambassador asked. No, there are only 2.
Then,
The Federation knew about humans and Earth a long time ago. The vote to crush your planet was unanimous after footage of your world wars became public. General George's eyes narrowed to slits.
Unanimous. That includes the Van Lille?
Yes. Before my time, but... yes. We were meticulous in our planning. We believed we couldn't fail.
wow.
Earth flashed in Noah's gears, though the human quickly blinked it away.
All right. What stopped them?
The Federation thought you were dead. Something about hundreds of nuclear explosions right after those world wars ended. I myself wonder what that was.
Testing. There were countless nuclear tests in that era. In unpopulated areas, might I add.
No one muttered. I see. At any rate, that's how we knew exactly what you were and where you were from, before your ship ever hailed us. The Federation will recognize what the captive is and find Earth's location on the star chart. George's eyes were icy.
You didn't think this was something we needed to know, Tarva?
Yeah, why are you telling us now?
Zhao spat. I shrank back under the Predator's withering gaze. While their anger was justified, it rendered me unable to form a response. Open hostility was not something my instinct processed well. Not when they were eyeing me up like their next meal.
The Covenant didn't want us to have cause to attack the Federation.
Noah said, leaping to my defense.
They are our friends, no matter how unjust they are. Besides, she's only known us for a month.
Karen cleared his throat.
It's little consolation, but the Federation means well. Truly.
Well-meaning or not, they want to kill us. We have to make difficult choices.
Jones growled.
Earth must be protected at all costs. I don't think Tarva wants to see that side of us.
I will support you all no matter what you choose, I stammered. I don't want humanity to die. If you evacuate people from Earth, they will be welcome in our territory. And though I have no right to ask, I beg you to show the Federation mercy. The human generals did not respond aloud, but their expressions conveyed a simmering rage. As Noah once told me, the concept of karma was close to their hearts. I suspected any Terran mercy was dependent on the Federation's next actions. The galaxy's prejudice could become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Memory transcription subject. Slonic. Vendel Space Corps. Date. Standardized human time. August 30th, 2136. The glow of the artificial lighting was the first thing that met my eyes. I stared at the unfamiliar surroundings in confusion, trying to recall where I was. This doesn't seem right. How did I get here? Someone had cocooned me in a blanket, which insulated me from the drafty room. There was light pressure in my ears, perhaps from some sort of bandage. Pain pulsed in my temple, dulled by a painkiller. Snippets of shapes lingered in my memory, but there was nothing concrete. I think I'd been drifting in and out of consciousness for days. My brain concluded that this was a hospital, which meant I was recovering from a serious injury. My huddled state suggested the damage was concentrated on the head. Gritting my teeth, I tried to think of the last thing I could remember. The bugs were chasing my spacecraft, and after that, everything got fuzzy. How was I still alive? It had seemed to be a hopeless scenario. There was a grim certainty that they would catch a small ship sooner or later. There were vague recollections of being paralyzed in fear, plastered against the seat. The person flying was screaming my name, and had the most visceral look on their predator. I snapped upright. Marcel! Where is Marcel? What happened to him?
Easy, calm down.
A gentle voice came from my right. A token male was seated beside my bed, keeping an eye on my vitals.
You're safe now. I'm Dr. Zahn. You're in the medical bay of a Federation warship.
The Federation? My heart rate spiked, which Zahn seemed to notice. Why are you involved?
Well, your craft came to our territory, so we took out the Arxer. It was fortunate that the Greys crippled your ship first. If they didn't, our boarding party wouldn't...
Where is Marcel? I blurted. The rush of panic was best described as gasoline blazing through my insides. It was not safe for him to encounter the red aliens alone when his appearance was so jarring. My mind leapt to the worst-case scenario. Had the Federation killed the human on sight? All I could picture was myself, standing over his corpse. The doctor patted my arm.
He's not here. Rest easy. He's not a threat.
He's alive, I exhaled. Please, take me to him.
I don't think that's a good idea.
I need to see him. I won't be able to function if I don't. I staggered to my feet, but bubbled when I tried to walk. Zahn caught me with a grunt, setting me back on the bed. Sympathy flashed in his amber eyes as if he sensed my desperation. The doctor retrieved a wheelchair from the storage closet and eased me into it.
Captain Sovlin is going to kill me, but if that's really what you need to heal, then all right,
Zahn grumbled. The Tarkin doctor pushed me into a hallway, steering us past maintenance rooms and lounges. My concern intensified as I received pitying stares from the crewmates we passed. It reminded me of the look people had when they learned the species' homeworld had been destroyed by the Arxer. Had the Federation assumed that humans attacked Venlo Prime? Oh God, how long have I been out? They would at least hear Marcel out, right? They're rational people. I tried to convince myself. I need to back up his story before something terrible happens.
There we
I
go.
have to speak to their captain at once.
I don't have the water pitcher. Shit.
Yeah. Into an observation room. The throng of officers stood by a glass pane, which provided a view to the holding cell. They seemed to be pointing to a spot in the corner. From their whispers, I caught the words non-responsive and hungry. My blood turned to ice as I realized what the tan mass in the nook was. Marcel was curled up in a ball, hugging his knees to his chest. The human was shaking from head to toe and looked gaunt enough to hardly be recognizable. His coverings had been removed, leaving his form exposed and barren. His face was bedded in the wall, so I could only see the purple bruises lining his spine. A desperate scream poured from my mouth, high-pitched and agonized. I flung myself toward the window, crawling on all fours. The sounds of the doctor trying to pacify me and the bewildered shouts of the captain registered, but I drowned them out. Marcel! I shrieked. Pain manced through my vocal cords from the volume, but I hardly felt it. The human lifted his head, craning his neck toward the glass. The moment his face became visible, I gasped in horror. Claw marks traced down his right cheek, deep gashes. Marcel hadn't even bothered to clean off the dried blood, perhaps losing the ability to care. The sockets around his hazel eyes were puffy and bruised. The left one was severe enough to be swollen shut. To add insult to injury, a thick metal band was clasped around his neck, restricting his airway. The human rose on weak legs, but stumbled to the glass. His gaze locked on me, and his lips curved up slightly. The band at his neck crackled with electricity seconds later. With a yelp, the predator collapsed in a heap. One of the officers must have triggered the shock as a form of punitive control. My heart twisted watching my friend racked with pain. I snarled towards the Federation posse. Stop that. The one I believed was Captain Sovlin blinked in confusion.
It's snarling at you.
That's how humans show happiness. They don't have tails or movable ears, I growled. The electric current ceased to my relief. Marcel languished on the floor, clutching his throat. The skin beneath the collar looked red as though the human had been zapped repeatedly. The predator struggled to a kneeling position and pressed his blade hand against the glass. The Federation officers backed away, like they thought he could reach through a solid object. Tears welled in my eyes. The poor guy was struggling with such simple motions. I met his gaze and placed my own paw opposite his palm.
Slonic,
Marcel croaked.
I'm happy you're okay. I was worried.
I pinned my ears against my head with concern. The human's voice sounded weak and feeble. I could only imagine how much he was hurting, looking at the wounds all over his body. By my estimation, they weren't feeding him either. The Federation was letting him endure a slow death by starvation. I sniffled, wiping a tear off my face. I'm so sorry, Mars. It was my job to protect you, and I failed. I left you all alone.
Don't cry. Please. It's not your fault.
The human murmured. Dr. Zahn seemed floored by our exchange, as though he didn't understand what was happening. A paw grasped at my scruff and dragged me away from the glass. I reared on my assailant, flexing my claws as best I could. There was no chance I was letting anyone take me away from the human.
What is wrong with you, Slonic?
Captain Sovlin set me down in the hallway, deflecting an attempted swing.
You're crying over a vicious, sadistic predator. A human.
What is wrong with me? The veins in my eyes bulged as white hot fury coursed through my blood. How could you do this to him? Marcel is my friend.
I thought you'd be more grateful being liberated. A species that enslaves and exploits you are not your friends. I can't believe I have to say that.
We aren't enslaved. We're partners with them willingly. Sovlin recoiled.
I'm sorry, what?
A science vessel made contact with us. After speaking with them, we couldn't let you chase their trail. We knew this is what you fuckers would do to an innocent species that came in peace.
I refuse to believe that. The distress signal. Their history. Well, just look at them.
He spat, spine specialing.
The Fen-Lil wouldn't betray the Federation, not for their kind. Do you have any idea what species you're dealing with?
We do. Vendel scientists did tests that prove that humans feel empathy. They are kind and gentle. Marcel is kind and gentle.
Kind and gentle. As if. I can think of a quick way to solve evil.
The captain's voice was low with anger.
Marcel hasn't eaten in days. Let's see how gentle he really is.
Sovlin grabbed me by the scruff again and marched me back into the observation room. He opened the door to the holding cell, fully inside with disdain. Zahn shouted at him to stop once it was obvious what the intention was. The doctor tried to remind him that I had a head injury, not to mention being under the influence of painkillers. The rough officer ignored him and clicked the door shut behind me. A brief tinge of fear crossed my mind. I knew Marcel didn't want to eat me, but this might be pushing his instincts. When his options were starving to death or rotting in my bones, there had to be some temptation. The human glanced at me, surprised at my involuntary entrance. Russet hair sprouted along his jawline, which gave him a rougher look than I was used to. He approached cautiously and watched me with set eyes. Seeing that I didn't back away, he settled down beside me. This was the closest we'd ever been, which made the discoloration around his left eye all the more noticeable. Whoa, what happened to your eye? I managed.
Sovlin was tired of looking at me. Said, next time he'd do it with claws out. And then...
The human gestured to the gash on his cheek.
It's everything I do, Slonic. They hate my existence.
I reached out with a shaking paw, dressing the wound. Does it hurt? Keep going with the stupid questions, Slonic. Bravo. You're really making him feel better. Marcel nodded.
Everywhere.
The fissure inside my chest widened. The way his voice cracked with that word was heartbreaking. The human lowered his head into his hands, and defeat radiated through his posture.
Oops,
I
too
couldn't
much.
bear to see the shock, considering Marcel reduced to this.
Oh shit,
I'm going to get you out
it's
of here.
getting
I promise.
too wet, so now I gotta stop and let it dry and harden up.
My friend, don't make promises. You can't.
Alrighty, what do you
I
think?
coughed. My paws took the predator closer to me before I realized I had done it. Marcel's eyebrows shot up in surprise, but he didn't try to pull away.
I'll clean up the teeth a little bit more tomorrow,
Tried to absorb
when
some
it's
of my
nice and
blood.
dry.
I petted his hair with a tentative paw, humming
What time is it?
It was only
I still got 20
soft,
minutes!
except for the strands that were crusted by blood. The human closed his hand to rise, relaxing into my arms. A more peaceful expression settled onto his face, and I observed him with fondness. Sovlin was right. I saw exactly how gentle Marcel was. With his bruised skull cradled in my lap and his shivering body snuggled up against me, he seemed so frail and innocent. But I will get you out of here, because you are my brother, my best friend, I whispered. And I love you. I thought Marcel didn't hear me, because there was no reaction or response. It wasn't until I saw a tear trickle down his cheek that I realized he had. The human reached up with a feeble hand and brought my paw over his chest. The steady beat of his heart ebbed into my toes, warm and rhythmic. After lost pain, the Federation officers gawked at the affectionate scene between the predator and his prey.
Okay. Breathe in.
Transcription subject. Slavic. Van Mill space call. Dead. Standardized human time. August 31st. 2036. I don't remember drifting off, but it was incredible that my instincts allowed it. There was no greater state of helplessness than during slumber, between diminished awareness and the inability to react.
See how easy it is to clean now?
Myself understood how deep of a display of trust it was, that I could fall asleep in his presence at all. The human had stirred by the time I woke and was crouched in the corner watching me. I swished my tail at the predator, and he smiled in return. It was a sinister display, yet bearable to me because of its intention. As terrible as his physical condition was, the teeth flashing meant he was in better spirits, and that was all that mattered.
That headwind must be back if you're waiting to go on in now.
The humanist lilt had returned to Marcel's voice. It sounded spread.
How are you feeling?
I ported the bandage.
Let's see now.
I think I can walk again.
Oh dear.
The human sighed.
I didn't realize you couldn't move. So that's why you didn't
What do I do with
I guess I
you?
heard what I needed to hear yesterday. I've been delirious.
I'm sorry. No, you didn't mishear a word, and I meant what I said. We're in this together. The sound of his stomach rumbling overshadowed our conversation moments later. The gurgling persisted for several seconds, loud and insistent. Marcel's expression morphed to embarrassment, and the hint of an apology danced in his eyes. I think he figured it made me uncomfortable, but it only jogged my wonder in his health. No animal could survive without sustenance. Have they fed you at all? I asked. The human shook his head. No. What about water? I'm thirsty myself. Marcel pointed to a rusty bucket in the corner, which was about half full of greenish liquid. The thought of lapping from an unfilthy container like a wild beast made me nauseous. If more time passed, though, there wouldn't be much choice. I didn't want to take the unresolved for now. All right, we've got to get you out of here, I said. You think, and I'll think. We'll come up with something. I glanced toward the glass pane, trying to figure out how to persuade the Federation officers. The captain was absent, which was a small point of relief. The ship doctor appeared to be in a heated discussion with a Colchian male. Maybe our companionship had given them second thoughts about humans. I swiveled my ears toward them, straining to pick up their words. Dr. Zahn raised his eyebrows in disgust.
More trauma. We should have never thrown him in there, Roussel.
I know, the silky voice answered. Captain told me I could spring Slonic once the Predator tries something. He just wants to scare some sense into him. Sovlin wouldn't let it eat a pup, you know.
But what if it pounces on him faster than we can activate the shock collar? I can't undo a broken neck.
Zahn argued.
Slonic needs medical attention regardless, and I'm not going in there.
And what do I tell the captain?
Where is the
Make
good
up a
one?
story. Slonic is awake now, and we can be separated from him. This could be our only chance. We can get him to move slowly toward the exit and fry the Predator if he tries anything.
I glowered at the observation panel. Fuck you! I'm not going anywhere without your sound. The human squinted in confusion. With his lousy ears, he was not aware of words. The two Federation officers
Oopsie,
shared glances
shit.
before fixing patronizing looks. Slonic, you're not thinking straight, Roussel hissed. If what you say is true, the Van Lille have fallen for a dreadful ruse. These humans just want you to give up our secrets. They'll discard you as soon as they've drained you dry. They are not your friends. Oh, that's rich. Coming from the crew that tossed me in a cage, intending for me to be attacked by a predator. Roussel sighed. That was Sovlin's doing. He didn't consult us.
Listen to me, Slanik. That thing is twisting your compassion against you.
Zahn pleaded.
The Arxer allowed us to uplift them, and only then did they attack. I'm sure your, Marcel mimics very well, but it's not real. These humans are just playing along to their benefit.
You don't think any then will consider that? The tests we did literally analysed human brain activity. Result blinked in confusion.
What tests?
Sovlin didn't tell you, I gasped. Our experiments recorded how humans respond to violence, and guess what? Their brains lit up with pain. You can't fake empathy on a biochemical level. The two aliens were quiet as the weight of my revelation sunk in. I recalled my own skepticism when I first learned of the Gimmit's benevolence. There would always be a little voice in my head suggesting that they wanted to hunt me. Our entire evolution hinged on avoiding predators, recognizing them as threat on sight. It wasn't something we could unlearn.
You're either misinterpreting the results or the humans altered them.
The doctor waved a paw dismissively, and eyed Marcel with undisguised loathing.
I can't listen to this, Stanek. Not from one of our own. Perhaps by the time I get back, the first officer will have snapped some sense into you.
As his counterpart stormed out in a rage, Russell inspected the human's behavior with curious eyes. The grizzled veteran seemed to be the only one listening to a word I said. My disclosure seemed to affect him, since he began pacing back and forth. It violated every facet of our moral code to treat a failing person with such cruelty. Now was my best chance to persuade him into making Marcel's situation more
I need to
livable.
actually start sewing
Marcel
tomorrow.
needs to eat, I said, trying to keep my tone calm. He will starve if he doesn't. Why should I care? The officer growled. I have no idea how long humans can live without food, but it's not forever. What use is he to you dead? Also, it's torture to me to watch him starve. He won't do it for his sake. Do it for mine. Brissot waved to grasp it in frustration.
Do you really expect me to carve up an animal and serve its flesh on a platter? Or are you saying that you'd be the one to slaughter it for this predator?
Humans can eat plants. In fact, Marcel only consumes vegetation. Please, if you have any decency, I beg you, give us something. Anything. There was a hint of pity in his gaze as he scanned Marcel's visible ribs. I could tell he didn't like seeing any creature suffer, no matter what it was. Russell fished the half-eaten edge of the purple fruit out of the waste bin, wrinkling his nose.
I'm going to put this right at the door. If it so much as takes a step toward me,
The second in command we have to call us Trigger.
this is all I can manage. Sutherland will notice if I take second from the rations.
The door slid open with a loud creak. Russell tossed the fruit inside like it burned at the touch. I scraped it off the floor, trying to push down my revulsion at the bite marks on its side. In his current state, I think Marcel would eat it, even if it was covered in literal shit. The human snatched the fruit from my paw without a second thought. He tore into it, wolfing it down in ravenous gulps. It was all he could do not to swallow it whole. He slumped back against the wall, quivering, and then proceeded to suck the juice off his grimy fingers. It wasn't anywhere close enough to satiate the human's appetite or to provide adequate nutrition. But Russell was the only one to offer him so much as a morsel, so I wasn't going to complain. Hopefully, it was enough to take the edge off Marcel's hunger, to ease a bit of the desperation. Thank you so much, I told the first officer. It means the world to me.
Yes.
Marcel mumbled.
Thank you, Russell. I am appreciative.
Russell met the predator's eyes, shuddering from behind the safety of the glass. My guess was that the captain gave orders not to let the human speak. However, I suspected the first officer was curious to see what the prisoner would say, and just how lucid one of his kind could be. A cuddly, furless fruit eater didn't seem at all like the bloodthirsty predators the Federation said they were.
Why would you want to fight the Arxer, human?
The officer asked suddenly.
Is it to claim the galaxy as your own catch? To rid yourself of the competition?
The Greys kill children. They eat sentient. Is that not enough reason to fight them?
Marcel rubbed the chafed skin under his collar, wincing.
Humans are lonely. We wanted to be your friends, but you all think we're monsters.
Russell sighed.
And what do you do to your friends?
We protect them. We stand by them unconditionally, just as we are loyal to the Vendil now.
How can you prove that you aren't using them as your playthings? You're telling me your instincts aren't tempted at all, having a vulnerable creature like Slanik at your mercy?
God, no. Humans dote on animals much less cute than him, you know. Look at that adorable face. All I can think about is his safety.
Prove it to.
Captain Sutherland burst into the observation room, staring daggers at his first officer. The root of his exasperation must be walking in on his subordinate, conversing with the predator. Zahn was trailing close behind, no doubt having informed the boss about my troubling statement. The doctor had a smug look on his face.
Your honor did it spell, too.
The British Gajit spat.
Clearly, it's dangerous to let it start talking if it can entrance you so easily. Anyone alone might succumb to its charm.
The captain leaned toward Rissell, and the Kolshin flinched away from his threatening scowl. Sutherland nabbed the collar's trigger out of the opposite tentacle. He looked at me, nodding our back towards Marcel, and shook his head. His spine stood on edge, fully extended. It made him appear much larger than his true size.
Get Slanagota for your doctor.
The leader spat.
I'll sign off for the psychological treatment you recommended, and we'll cure him of this delusion.
Where's the black
No,
paint?
you can't take me away. I snarled. Sutherland sidled up to the cell door and waved for me to come to him. The idea of being placed in the Federation treatments terrified me. What if it convinced me that Marcel was evil or erased my memories of him? A pitiful whine vibrated in my throat, and I skipped away with my tail between my legs. The human moved forward to protect me, placing his body form between me and the captain. How could he be worrying about me still, after all he'd been through? I mean it. I will come with you. No, willingly. My voice shook with fear, but I managed to speak out the words. Why would I ever want to come with a monster like you?
Would you rather Watchers dissect your human?
A crazed light flashed into Sutherland's eyes. It was the look of a man who was at the end of his rope.
I think it's time we open it up. See what makes you tick.
Terror radiated through my blood at the captain's chilling threat. Marcel faltered in his protective stance as he processed what was said too. The Gajid looked him right in the eyes, then jabbed a slender claw on the collar remote. The predator was down in an instant, too weakened to maintain his...
Can anybody let me know if the screen is fuzzy or if it's just my laptop being 20 years old?
Zan took that as his cue to rush inside the cell and scoop me up in his sturdy arms. Panic filled my psyche, as though it
wrong
put my
button.
whole life into balance. My self-preservation instinct kicked into overdrive, filling me with a burning urge to escape. I tried to ride out of the doctor's grasp, to no avail. My friend's eyes narrowed as he noticed I was gone. He struggled against the pain, propping himself onto his elbows. Sutherland's face contorted with hatred, and he dealt a kick to the convulsing Marcel's head. There was a sickening crack, which I recognized as the sound of bone breaking. Blood gushed from his misshapen nose like a fountain. And the
Oops,
human
made the eye too long.
It was a primal cry that made my heart burn in my chest. The captain was unrelenting in the shock's administration, electrocuting the predator non-stop. The human's complexion was turning bright red, and he struggled to breathe. His veins bulged against his pallid skin, and his teeth chattered in his jaw. He rolled onto his back, unable to muster any more fight. The Gajid lowered a hind leg right on the spot on Marcel's ribs with the most bruising. The predator's scream seemed to satisfy the captain.
It's time to end this.
Sutherland drew his sidearm and flicked off the safety.
I should have done this at the start, instead of wasting our oxygen prolonging its wretched life.
Rissell gaped in horror, inching out from the observation room. Sir, we need to keep it alive, at least until we know more.
There's nothing more I need to know. I want it off my ship.
The captain roared. The first officer closed his eyes, but didn't act to intervene. Ceased as the Gajid turned his attention to the weapon.
Tears falling down at the party. Saddest little baby in the room.
Glanced over from pain. There was nothing I could do as my predator friend faced his execution.
Not for you. What's my time?
Transcription
Only get 10 minutes.
Slunick, Van Lille Space Corps. Date. Standardized human
I'm
time.
going full zombie.
August 31st,
Green and everything.
2026.
Classic.
The thought of a world without my human was too much to bear. After all we'd been through, he felt like a long-lost brother rather than an alien predator. I would never hear his voice, message him in a chat room, or fly a spaceship with him again. His life was about to end in a haze of misery, because I was too weak to stop it. Why had I promised Marcel I would free him from this hell? It was cruel to give him a false sense of hope. If I had said the right words, if I had woken up sooner, maybe this wouldn't have happened. What kind of friend am I? A failure? I thought I had more time to talk the Federation down, since they refrained from killing him this far. There was no reason for the captain to rush to an irreversible decision, though he didn't seem in a particular hurry now. Sovlik was savoring the anguish on Marcel's face, and he seemed to be daring him to fight back. He tapped the gun against the predator's crooked nose, which elicited a crackling sound. He swiftly returned the barrel to the human's temple and flashed his teeth. The lack of a reaction disappointed him. Marcel was too out of it to process any more sensation.
Where's my scissors?
The captain sighed and resolved himself to finish the job. I wanted to make some sort of last-ditch effort, but Zahn had me ensnared in his suffocating grip. The doctor chuckled as he realized the human was about to be terminated. It was that callous glee that spurred me to action. No! I screamed. Leave him alone! I bit Zahn's arm with force, then thrashed about with my tiny claws. The weighty tackle restrained me with ease, dragging me further out of the cell. My teeth hadn't even pierced his thick hide. The efforts wore down my strength more than anything else. The doctor clamped a paw around my mouth, suppressing any other attempts to call out. I reached out for Marcel desperately. The human made eye contact with me, and tears rolled down his mangled face. Despite the overwhelming pain, he tried to put on a brave smile. The predator was thinking about my feelings, even in his final moments. Sovlin's claw drifted toward the trigger, and I averted my eyes. I didn't want to see Marcel's brains come out the other side of his head. His beautiful snarl should be the last thing in my memory. That was how I wanted to remember him. Lower your weapon, Sovlin, or I'll put you down with that thing. Marcel's craving voice broke the silence, rather than a gunshot. I can't watch this anymore. You are behaving just like the Arxer. My eyes blinked open to find the first officer pointing his sidearm at the captain. Several emotions rushed across Sovlin's face. Most seemed to be a shade of outrage or shock. The Khajiit was relishing his assault at the Predator and didn't appreciate having the finale cut off.
Rizal, there is no intelligence we need from it. Slonic can tell us everything.
Zahn tightened his hold around me, imploring the first officer to stand down.
Its life has no value. It is nothing but a danger to the crew, in the case that it gets loose.
It is sapient. That must have some value, no matter how little. Why have you both forgotten that? The captain's lips curled back, revealing his curved maws.
Because they took everything from me. Everything. And now, this monster has the nerve to corrupt my crew. Let me tell you, it is done taking from us. This ends now.
But it has done nothing wrong. Look at it. It's helpless, Rizal hissed. You've beaten it half to death.
So you think this human is sweet too?
Sovlin sneered.
It thirsts for blood just like the Arxer do. It is a violent creature at its core. Its rotten core. Marcel serves the hunt. If it was honest, it would admit it.
The only time Marcel ever showed any violent impulses was after he watched the Arxer torture Van Mill children, I thought. The captain isn't wrong about human bloodlust, but they have reasons to kill. It's not anger born from a place of cruelty. The first officer swallowed nervously. Are aggression and compassion mutually exclusive? We don't know. There could be more to the story. If there's a chance he wanted peace and we kill it, what does that make us?
It makes us heroes. I think you're a damned fool if you give it the chance to do the exact same thing the Arxer did. Now you're going to let me protect us, and we're going to put this incident behind us. The Federation wouldn't have voted to destroy Earth the first time if they weren't sure, Rizal. I trust in the judgment of several hundred species. How should you?
Earth, Marcel groaned.
I never told you.
The captain's paw twitched around his gun. A shot rang out moments later, and my fur stood on end. Blood spurted through a wound in Sovlin's thigh, and the crippled leg buckled beneath him. It wasn't the Khajiit who got off the first shot, to my exuberant relief. Rizal tackled the spiky nail away from the human. The first officer disarmed his superior and cast a blank stare at the prisoner. The proximity to Marcel seemed to bother him, though he tried to keep his wits. I was amazed that the Koshian veteran had intervened. The talk of human neural activity must have instilled some qualms in his mind. The first officer aimed his gun toward the doctor. If he turned at the tertiary threat, he must be satisfied that Sovlin was restrained and Marcel was incapable of lunging at him. I yelped as I felt a sudden tug around my waist. Zahn was propping me up as a shield and trying to load a syringe. Let the Van Lille go, Zahn, Rizal spat. You don't want to hurt him.
I don't want to hurt Slenic, but I need to fix him. He's ill.
Release him. Now. The doctor pressed the needle to my throat, ignoring my whimper.
Or what?
Or I remove the human's collar, and we find out. The Predator was in no condition to move. It was obvious to me that he was on the brink of losing consciousness. I think Rizal knew the threat was empty, but he worked like a charm on the doctor. Zahn's grip slackened, and I slithered out of his arms in a flash. My sprint to Marcel's side was a blood of elated bliss. The human yelped at the rope atop his chest, forgetting about the inflamed bruises. He pushed me off him, with care not to hurt me. Gritting his teeth, he tried to sit up, but didn't get farther than raising his head. My stomach flipped at the sight of his nose, twisted to the side, with the skin turning a deep purple already.
Did you tell them?
Marcel croaked. I tilted my head. Tell them what?
About Earth. They're going to...
No, it's a long story, but we've got to warn your people. While my eyes were averted, Rochelle placed a makeshift gag around Sovlin's mouth. The captain was squirming, his voice muffled to grunts. The first officer had resorted to pacing back and forth, pounding his head in frustration. I assumed he was at a loss for what to do with Marcel. Intervening to spare the human's life was simpler than releasing him. At the end of the day, Rochelle was a frightened Colchian with a gun.
No
It
shit.
was the primary obstacle in our path to getting Marcel home. I contemplated an angle of persuasion, since my odds of fighting him unarmed seemed paltry. If the human dies, why did he shoot his own captain? I thought. Surely he realizes he's too far into back out now. He wouldn't want his treason to be for naught.
That looks like really bad lipstick.
He needs a doctor, I pleaded. I know. And Zahn would poison the thing as soon as treated, Rochelle sighed. If there's billions of these predators out there, I suppose letting this one go isn't going to make a difference. Even if... Never mind. I'd better not give him time to change his mind. He really sounds like he's having second thoughts. I flicked my ears toward Marcel. How are we going to move him? The first officer surveyed the vicinity. His eyes landed on the wheelchair Zahn used for me yesterday. I sensed his hesitancy to retrieve it from the observation room where Sovlin saw grumbling cursives and Marcel trying to sit up. The Colchian tapped me on the shoulder and pressed the gun into my paws. If Sovlin or the Predator try anything, shoot them, Rochelle growled. I'll be gone a few seconds. The officer sprinted over to the wheelchair's resting spot like a Predator was chasing him, which I guess he felt like it was. He rolled it back to our location and almost fell over when Marcel glanced at him. I considered plunging the gun at Rochelle, since I didn't trust him to treat the human like a person. The Colchian was a bystander to Sovlin's torture after all. Even now, he kept referring to Marcel as it, or the Predator. The sole reason I decided against backstabbing him was that I needed help. Rochelle had saved Marcel's life and wasn't actively trying to hurt him. I didn't know my way around the ship, so getting out of here was impossible without him. Not to mention that the veteran was stronger, well adapted to stress, and more adept at combat. The first officer seemed oblivious to my deliberation as he stepped away from the wheelchair. He reclaimed his firearm, brandishing it with shaking graspers. I was by far the least threatening entity in the room to his brain. Move the human into the chair, Slanek, Rochelle grumbled. I can't. I'm too weak. You have to do it. I don't want to touch it. Grow up. You won't bite. Rochelle huffed, but slowly knelt by Marcel. He reached out with a grasper and hissed in disgust as it touched sweat-soaked skin. His breathing devolved to sporadic gasps as the fear chemicals became unbearable. When he lifted the Predator, I worried his grip might falter. The human shouldn't be dropped, especially in his current condition. With eyes the size of moons, Rochelle deposited my friend into the chair. Marcel yelped from the rough handling. My lip curled up without thinking, an instinctive warning not to hurt the Predator. Don't give me that look, Slonny. I'm trying my best, the first officer spat. I don't see you doing anything helpful. I want to help. I'd do anything, really. I'm sorry. That was harsh. I apologize. Rochelle took a deep breath and positioned himself behind the Predator. This is overwhelming for me, okay? Shit. Let's just get moving. Marcel was wheeled out of the cell by the trembling Colchian, past the watching Zahn. I made eye contact with the doctor during my own exit. The Federation officer carting a wounded Predator away with a mesmerized then Lil in tow. Suffice to say, it wasn't his desired outcome. The Takan seemed to be having an aneurysm at the sight of our posse.
You're making a big mistake. Humans are sociopaths. Murderers.
Zahn screeched. Rochelle pointed at the doctor. You, get in that cell and treat Sovlin. I'd prefer if he doesn't bleed out. The medic bared his teeth at us. He slunk inside with reluctance and began tending to the captain's injury with his kit. Rochelle pressed a button outside the cell and the door slid shut. Several clicks indicated
How we looking?
behind us.
Looking pretty zombie?
The first officer didn't want his devious ship mess pursuing us or tipping us off to the crew. Realization flashed in the doctor's eyes and he slammed a paw on the wall in frustration.
Why didn't I do that to you all?
Zahn wheeled. Roussel snorted, waving a shiny object. Because I have the key. The hint of a smirk played at Marcel's face, which showed he was still conscious. I was pleased to see him responsive, though I hoped he didn't start laughing. The last thing we needed was the first officer thinking the human was growling. It was going to be difficult to get a battle predator not to notice as things were. Roussel, aren't the crew going to wonder why the predator got loose? I asked. Won't they freak out? The first officer thought for a moment. He yanked the fire alarm, then pressed the button on his holopad to trigger an evacuation order. An automated message relayed the command to abandon ship, while the overhead sprinklers doused us in cold water. This guy is smart, I'll give him that, I thought. Maybe he will be useful. Nobody would question an officer moving a high-value prisoner under emergency procedures. In his current state, Marcel appeared sedated, so that might limit panic too. Giddiness abounded in my mind at the thought of freedom. Returning home with my best friend might have been a trip to paradise as far as I was concerned. It felt like we had been given a new lease on life. With uncertain steps, Roussel guided us into the shuttle bay. Several ear-piercing screams were our greeting once the crewmates detected the half-conscious predator. The way they pointed at Marcel made me seethe. The people nearest the entrance tripped over themselves in their haste to get away. The first
Does look like she's trying to smile.
Marcel toward an unoccupied shuttle. He carried the human with less overt fright this time. His delicacy as he placed the predator in the back seat surprised me. The fact that he noticed his private stare through the haze of terror showed a great deal of empathy. Roussel clipped the harness over Marcel's withered chest, which was forcing out shallow breaths. The Colchian felt the human's pulse. The concern in his eyes reignited my own worries. The heartbeat must have been rapid or erratic. The first officer found a blanket under the seat and draped it over the predator's barren form. It was undeniably a kind gesture. Roussel seemed to
That's
care.
better.
Whether he would admit it was another question. As reluctant as I was to forgive the officer for his role in Marcel's abduction, I was worried about what would happen to him next. We couldn't leave the man who served us behind to hang for treason. Come with us. I jumped into the pilot seat,
That
finding
doesn't
the
work.
launch sequence. You can't stay here.
Alright,
Roussel.
that's my time.
You have your hand. I'd rather face whatever the Federation has in store for me than live surrounded by humans. The first officer took a last look at Marcel, blinking rapidly. But I wish you both well. For the sake of us all, I pray you're right about this. Please, you don't have to say humans. I'm sure the Van Lille will take care of you and we can bring you somewhere far away from them. For Marcel's sake, we have to dock at the outpost. Assuming it's still there, I thought. I'm not sure how the humans would react to Roussel's presence, but we can cross that bridge when we get to it. But that's not the point. I deserve to hang Slonik. The officer's composure crumbled, and he buried his face in his tentacles. I don't know what came over me back there. I'm a traitor. You stopped a murder, and now this is our only chance to stop a genocide. If Earth is attacked, there will be no chance of peace. Not now. Maybe not ever. The fate of the Federation hinges on what we do. Are you really going to sit that out? Roussel stepped off the craft, and to look on his face. He stood motionless and pondered my words. No wise veteran wanted another predator enemy. That would ensure that the Federation lost the war. With a reluctant sigh, the first officer clambered back onto the ship.
Alrighty.
He squeezed into the back
What do you
seat
think?
beside Marcel, leaning away from him. Regret was already etched on the Colchian's gelatinous features. I suspected this would be a long ride for our
Alright, I'm gonna call that a night. Thank you everyone for stopping by and seeing what I'm working on. Hopefully I'll get sewing. I hate sewing because I can't listen to anything. So I can't get like mindless and work on stuff. But anyway, this so far is good. Hopefully I won't break it anytime soon. Alright, y'all have a good night. Thanks for stopping by.